Well, what can we expect from earnings in the second quarter? Well, let's take a look. FactSet says earnings growth for the S&P 500 companies projected to fall 7.2% in Q2. That's according to Goldman Sachs analysts. The bar for companies is low, and they're expected to clear it. Meanwhile, Evercore ISI analyst Julian Emmanuel says Nvidia set the bar way too high with its huge Q2 outlook. Here to break it down for us is Yahoo Finance reporter Ines Ferre. Hey, Ines.
Hey, Rochelle. Yeah, and let's start out with Julian Emmanuel from Evercore ISI and his comments in a note to investors over the weekend, as you were just mentioning, that the bar being set very high, and that's because of Nvidia's blockbuster results earlier this year back in May, and where Nvidia, just to give you a refresher, basically raised its revenue guidance for the second quarter of this year, saying that it will meet about $11 billion in revenue, and that was versus what the street was expecting, $7.2 billion. So a massive beat, a massive increase when it comes to revenue. And that is because of AI, of course, and that AI craze that investors have had as well. Now, be in contrast with Goldman Sachs is saying now the bar is set too low, talking about a consensus of what the street's expecting, and the consensus being of an expectation of a 9% year-over-year decline in S&P 500 earnings per share, and that's driven by flat sales and margin compression. And something interesting that the note also from Goldman analyst talks about is what to watch for. The key areas that investors will be watching for is maintaining margins, trying to push sales for profits, the impact of bank stresses and credit lending, the potential uses of AI, and also the health of the consumer. But bringing it back to this contrast between what Evercore ISI is saying and what Goldman analysts are saying, basically, look, Brian Sozzi, the executive editor of Yahoo Finance, wrote a note this morning. You can check it out on yahoofinance.com. And it's basically saying, look, not all these companies are going to be Nvidia's. In fact, very few are going to be like Nvidia, which is riding that AI craze. He went over to a Home Depot earlier during the weekend, says Home Depot is not selling AI chips. There are many other consumer-facing companies that are also not selling AI chips, tons of companies that are not in the AI space per se. So you can't expect all of these to be like and Nvidia. And again, a lot will come back to the health of the consumer, how much the consumer is willing to spend, tapping into those reserve savings, and also, of course, as student loans are right around the corner as well, the impact that is going to have on spending as well.
Indeed, and as you mentioned, a lot of those bank stresses now expected to show up in these second quarter earnings. We'll be keeping an eye on all of that. A big thank you there to our very own Ines Ferre. Thanks so much.